Hail to the king, baby. Hey there, Evil Dead fans. Welcome to another episode of the Ash vs. Evil Dead After Show on AFTERBUZZ TV. Tonight we are talking about the Season 2 finale, Second Coming. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Happy endings are kind of rare in the Evil Dead
Oh,
franchise.
indeed.
But is it really happy, or is it just a dream?
For a minute there, I was questioning whether or not it was real.
I do think our heroes have earned a momentary reprieve, though it will be momentary.
But yeah, like, because of the nature of Evil Dead, like, the happy ending to me just feels so unnatural and like it can't last.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I agree. I'm like, I just don't think it's for reals, guys.
Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. In the meantime, it's always just nice to groove a little bit when Ash kind of does get his just rewards. It happens so rarely. It's just kind of a nice treat, and it's even better when it's in musical form.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know, this is the finale of Evil Dead the Musical in its off-Broadway incarnation. The original Canadian production had a slightly different ending, but yes. So this is supposed to be like the end of Army of Darkness, where they're in S-Mart and
but yeah, kind of, but not.
Kind of, but not really.
Go back and it's complicated. Yeah. Anyway, spoilers. Anyway, let's not waste any more time. Let me introduce my fantastic panel. To my left, Lex Michael.
I am Lex Michael, all over social media at the Lex Michael.
And I'm Lacretia Lyon, guys, all over social media at LACRETIALYON, anywhere on the internet since there is only one.
And I'm Emma Fyffe. I can be found all over the internet wherever Emma Fyffes are sold at Emma Fyffe, which is my name.
And I'm Megan Salinas. You guys can tweet at me at the Menguin. That's TheMenguin. We are going to be keeping an eye on the hashtag ABTV Evil Dead, as well as the live chat, because we know you guys are going to have a lot to say about this final episode for the season. And if you haven't already done so, please go to iTunes to rate, subscribe, leave a comment. We absolutely love hearing from you, and it is the best way to let our producers know that you like the show that we're putting on, so that, I don't know, maybe if there's a season 3, we can come back and hang out in this studio and talk more Ash vs. Evil Dead. That would be super. And it sends a really great message to Starz, and they help us get guests, like some of the fabulous guests we had this season. Yes. And it is all thanks to your guys'
Starz
support.
with a Z.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lots of stars in that sense, now that I think about it. So, guys, this is the end of season 2. We're ending on a bit of a higher note compared to last season.
True.
How do you guys feel about season 2 as a whole?
Oh, man. So I loved season 1, but as we all know, I had one really major issue with season 1.
Yes.
And not only did season 2 not have anything that I had a really major issue with, but like it was just even better than season 1. It was more Evil Dead than the Evil Dead films were. It was genius. I loved season 2. I can't wait to see where they go with this story. Like, I feel like the first season was great, but this season they really, really hit their stride and like nailed the tone that they were going for and the kind of story they wanted to tell. It was one of the best seasons of television in history, I think.
Oh, I totally agree. As much as I love season 1, season 2 was perfection.
Yeah.
And I just say, like, every little moment of this season I loved, because it was so Evil Dead and just, like, way surpassed my expectations of anything ever.
Yes.
Because we got Ted Raimi back. We got Cheryl back. We got so much stuff. And then Ash was in the butt. And Ashley the puppet. Yeah.
He was.
I'm 100% with you guys. I absolutely adored this season. They kept giving me things that I had no idea I desperately needed to see. And now I've seen them, and I question sincerely how I ever got through a day without the image of Ash wearing a corpse on his head, for example. Honestly, this season was so much better in every way than it had to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially, for a season like this, for a show like this, it would be so easy for people who don't care to just phone it in. And But I don't get that from this show. Anytime we get a bit of fan service, it doesn't feel forced and it doesn't feel contrived. It feels like this is a show made by people who love it for people who love it.
Yes.
And I will say that I don't think anything creature effect wise ever matched up to what we got with Eligos in season 1. I still think that creature design wise, Eligos is the best thing we've gotten. But as a whole, in terms of the humor, in terms of the action sequences, I agree. I think season 2 surpassed season 1, and that was a pretty high bar.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the effects work this season, though, was absolutely stunning. I mean, even tonight in this finale, the effect on the final transformation of the Henrietta Deadite when the neck elongated. That was an incredible effect.
Yeah, it looked really good too. You know what I mean? Especially because like I think that Ash vs. Evil Dead like really benefits from the fact that the vast majority of the effects that they are doing are practical. They use a lot of prosthetics and other variations on special effects makeup. So then to see that really smooth transition into something that is CGI, like that's very impressive for television.
Absolutely.
And it, like even for CGI, it looked like they were doing stop motion. Like they're well aware of the fact that people love the campy, cheesy stop motion effects from the original films. So like seeing a bit of CGI that sort of emulated that was really endearing.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about how we open up. I will say that as far as this episode goes, I was a little disappointed that the professor and Tanya didn't last very long.
No, the first like 2 minutes, they're both out.
I know.
Poor Tanya.
Yeah. And Annie's dad.
Yeah.
But we totally predicted Tanya was going to die, at least.
Yeah, I didn't know for sure what was going to go down with the professor. I mean, I knew he was obviously going to die eventually.
Because, again, he appears in Evil Dead 2 in that weird, like, sort of ghosty image. But, so, yeah, we knew he was going to die and that the Necronomicon was going to overtake him. Did we see what was hanging out in his back seat?
No,
Like,
it was just another one of those POV monsters.
Oh, gosh, those POV Deadites, they're the worst.
I mean, for all we know, I mean, I think our best guess is that it must have potentially been Ball himself because we only ever saw Ball and Ruby until the, like, evil demon babies came back.
Right.
So, and we know that, you know, Ball can slice people in half, like, no problem. He's got that convenient claw thing going.
And I'm sure that convenient claw thing probably could have, you know, jimmied open the trunk that he was conveniently hiding in.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, though I'm disappointed because I really think we could have gotten quite a bit from the professor if this show had wanted us to. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, we ultimately know he dies, so why dwell on it?
That is true. Yeah, I mean, I would not have minded the professor having a little bit more to do and getting a little bit more backstory there, but ultimately, was I crushed that he got crushed?
No, not really.
Like
kind of
immediately.
popped like a balloon.
Well, but it is one thing that's really fun every single week is to see what gross out effect they're going to go to the title from. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm now having like almost like a Pavlovian response to that musical sting. Every time, just like my endorphins start going, I'm like, yes, good time.
Yes.
Well, because they always do it with the big old blood splatter. Like, you know exactly the type of show that you're watching if you get this cheesy, bloody effect and then, like, those trumpets.
It's great.
It just sounds really triumphant and menacing and funny. But yeah, speaking of Henrietta, we get this really fun homage fight scene, and it just like last week, I have nothing but good things to say about it, with the exception of I didn't need to see Ash like get the milk
lactated on.
Oh, that was so uncomfortable, but it was kind of amazing.
Prison rules.
I like it on tap.
Weirdly, I think maybe my favorite little detail was Henrietta's pronunciation of Necronomicon. I don't know why. That, like, profoundly tickles me.
Necronomicon.
It just tickled your fancy.
Yeah.
But yeah, during that particular moment, you guys can't see me, but like while we were watching it, I was physically convulsing and like throwing my hand in the air going, no, I don't want to see that.
It was so uncomfortable.
Very big reactions from everybody.
But I mean, that's something that the season has been doing as well, is kind of upping the factor on like the gross out humor.
Yeah, and I mean, because they do it if that scene had been presented in not such a comedic way, it would have been just in awful taste.
Yeah.
But it's Ash vs. Evil Dead. So, like, the more bizarre and disgusting something is, like, the kind of more funny it is in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though I'm going, no, I don't want it, this show can get away with so much more than I think other shows can get away with.
Definitely.
If another show had attempted that, I would have been like, get out. Go home, show your drunk.
Yeah, Walking Dead. You can't do milk producing Henrietta.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love The Walking Dead though, guys. It's great.
Oh yeah, no, it's still fantastic there. But I think that's a good example of like the two very different types of shows in terms of the horror genre. We have the probably overly serious and very slowly paced Walking Dead, which is great.
Yeah.
And very character driven. But then we also have the much more comedic, much more fast paced.
Oh, yeah.
Ash versus Evil Dead. We got butt stuff.
You get butts,
That's
you
the
get
tagline.
junk,
They
you get
do.
all sorts of things.
All kinds of weird stuff. It's great.
And again, and talking about Henrietta, it's always nice to see Ted Raimi, and then we get to see him in two capacities.
Two
Oh,
scoops
I know.
of Ted.
Yeah, I was glad that we got to see a Deadite-induced vision of good old Chet.
Good old Chet and good old Cheryl and Brock.
I know.
And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, we get past, and this is where, like, again, I love this season, and this episode was very well done. But whenever you deal with time travel, I have questions.
Oh, me
Sure.
too.
And
Sure.
there are a lot of kind of paradoxy things, and
Yep.
I'm sure they'll touch on that next season.
Oh, I guarantee it.
But like, there are a lot of paradoxy things going on right now.
Yeah.
And
Sure. Well, presumably, just the very end of this episode alone, there is no more cabin for Ash and his friends to go
to.
Yeah.
Yes. So my so obviously, first of all, as soon as he killed Henrietta, I was like, okay, well, the timeline's already changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because young Ash won't have Henrietta to encounter in Evil Dead 2.
exactly.
So then, based on how it ended, and we'll talk more about the ending later, I believe that there are now, this is like some Legend of Zelda stuff, and it's like multiple timelines.
Yeah.
It's like the hero saved everybody in the bad future, and then like goes back to his own time, and it's like
I feel like
anyway.
we need
It's
to
Ash
create a
Point.
time.
It's exactly.
I feel like we need to create like a diagram of the different timelines that have been created as a result.
Exactly. And and I mean that could also explain, even though this would be like post justifying the thing. There's a word I'll come up with the actual word I'm looking for. This would be like retconning, basically.
Okay.
Yes.
The whole sort of idea of, okay, so Evil Dead happens, and then Evil Dead 2, the beginning of it's kind of like the first Evil
Right.
Dead. You know what I mean?
Well, and we talked about that last week when Ruby brought up the idea of multiple timelines.
Yeah.
Right.
And the fact that does explain every inconsistency the series has ever had, as well as the reboot. You can stand up and say, because of that one line, you can stand up and say they're all canon in one way or another. You don't
Right.
have to kind of mesh everything together in one cohesive timeline. Literally, each and every
Right.
one of them can be its own
Right,
separate
because
thing.
it's like Ash and friends clearly go back to the timeline that they came from, where everything has gone down as it would have gone down for Ash, but because like Pablo was with them in the time where everything got fixed, he got brought back to life. So really, he's to Pablo from another timeline. Like it's
it's starting to like you start questioning it too much and your head starts to spin because it doesn't add up. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, Pablo already had a mustache, so they were unable to tell him from the darkest timeline. And Ash Dead 86 brings up a good point that I brought up with the very ending. It was like, I think this is how they're gonna connect the remake. And
Yes.
I
Oh,
agree.
yeah, absolutely.
Come on,
Yeah.
Mia.
Well, we
yeah,
talked
yeah.
about how really quick before we
Yeah.
jumped on mic, we talked about how there is this little tag at the end of the credits
Little
where
stinger.
we hear someone, a girl's voice talking to her friends, and they have stumbled upon the Necronomicon
Yes.
back in the 80s, presumably. So it's entirely possible that's where they're taking us, which is really cool.
And prior to this show being created, after the remake came out, there was so much buzz and talk from Sam Raimi himself about doing an Army of Darkness sequel where, you know, in the alternate ending where Ash didn't, you know, he fell asleep too long,
Yes.
and possibly doing, and a lot of people were talking about the reboot being a sequel in disguise, so that you could combine the timelines and have this epic
and
crossover.
they added some fuel to that too by throwing that little stinger of Ash at the very end of the credits. Yeah.
But yeah, so ever since Ash vs. Evil Dead was announced, I kept going, ooh, like when they announced Lucy Lawless, I was super excited, and I was like, I wonder if they'll bring in Mia, like, because I love her. I thought she was like, and, you know, you can talk about how most horror remakes are pretty terrible, but the Evil Dead remake was really solid.
It was really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it nailed it. And not to say that it is the same as the other Evil Deads, but, like, what it did with it was really good and, like, I thought very interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, so I really liked Mia, so I really liked the idea of those two coming together, so we could very well get that next
Which
season.
is really exciting.
Yay. Yeah, let's talk to people and see if their schedules are open for to go down to New Zealand for a couple months to film.
I mean, Suburbia was canceled.
We'll see. Anyway, so yeah, let's talk about Ball's plan, because he somehow
Good old Bill.
And
I
this
just love that little detail that like Ash just always calls him Bill. He legitimately does not know what his name is.
No.
You see, I don't know about that. I think he might know that his name isn't Bill and just goes with Bill because he knows it gets under his skin.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's 50-50.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's intentional. Half the time he is just not thinking about it, and that's what comes out.
Yeah.
That's also true. Ash doesn't think. We've established that on multiple occasions. But yeah, so Ball like disguises himself and wears Pablo's skin.
Just rude.
And
That
is
was awful.
upsetting.
Dude, no.
So upsetting.
I was so mad, and I did have a moment where I was like, great, Pablo's not going to come back. This was all like a plan
All for
for nothing.
nothing.
A
Yeah.
dick move.
Yeah. And what was interesting too is that this was actually present Ball who went back in time with them.
Yes.
I thought it was just going to be 80s Ball.
Right.
Which is, again, kind of interesting that present Ball and past Ruby, like, were somehow able to communicate and coordinate to meet up here. And I suppose, I don't know, like, I kind of figured that, like, if they were talking that, like, present Ball or, you know, past Ball would have also shown up. Like,
But I don't think Ball was summoned in the past. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I think
Right.
that's the issue, is that Ruby was trying to summon Ball, and she hadn't succeeded at that point. So here's Ruby being like, this is great. This guy who I've been investing all of my time and energy in, just here he
the
is.
father
Hey.
of my children.
Yeah.
Hey, this worked out really well.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Thank you, Ash. Now I'm gonna say thank you by stabbing the future version of myself, which not cool.
Yeah.
Not
man.
cool.
I don't think this will be a controversial statement, but you guys, Lucy Lawless is just so good
I
She's
know.
fantastic.
at everything that she does.
She really is. No,
Yeah.
she's literally perfect. I was like, I mean, this is skipping to the ending, and we'll talk about it more. But like, when evil 80s Ruby showed up in the ending of the
Yeah.
show, I was like, oh, thank God, Lucy Lawless is still
Yes.
going to be on the show.
Yes, I think we all sort of breathed a sigh of relief, because on the one hand it's like, that's bad for our heroes. On the other hand, it's like, thank God Lucy Lawless is still going to be in it to win it, because
no, she's great. I just think that, I mean, I was a huge Xena Warrior Princess fan, so like, she can do no wrong.
yeah, I honestly think that removing her from the show would be a huge detriment
Oh,
to
100%.
the next season. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely it's the four of them. The four of them absolutely. It's become increasingly an ensemble show. I feel like you kick out one of the legs, the table collapses.
Yeah. So, Lacretia, do you have any feelings on Ruby's unfortunate death scene?
Yeah, while I hate that cool pink-haired Ruby died, I love Debbie hairy hair Ruby.
I know.
Yes.
So I'm like, sweet.
Guys, and how about those shoulder pads?
I know, and I love when Ash realizes, he's like, oh, you're 80s Ruby. Like,
Yeah, and his comment about if we do it, is that a threesome, even though y'all are the same person? I love that that's what he thinks. You know?
Oh, and Ruby, who's trying to do right, present Ruby, who's trying to do right by everybody, just, like, even in her last moment, she has to endure Ash's nonsense. I'm not dead, you
Oh my
idiot.
god, that was amazing when Ash, like, went to go close her eyes. She's just like, I'm not dead. Gosh, stop.
It was so weird. You were really still for a second.
And then, like, actually seeing her decapitated, too. Like,
That was distressing.
I don't know about you guys, but if I saw my future self, like, appear with dyed hair and, like, looking very distraught, being like, look, I'm you from the future. I'm here
Change
to
your
help
life.
you.
Change your life.
Yeah. Like, what would your reaction be? Because my reaction would not be to stab my future
Right,
self.
to murder yourself and decapitate yourself.
No,
It's-
that's
she
not my
basically-
knee-jerk reaction.
She basically, like, Kylo Ren's herself.
She does.
The way that was shot and blocked looked a lot like that scene in The Force Awakens to me. And I was like, oh, this is...
Spoiler alert, guys.
just like
if you
that
haven't
we asked
seen
for a
that,
year
guys,
old
it
movie.
came out a year ago.
Force Awakens.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Anyway.
What rock have you been hiding under for the
Future
last year?
self and me. That's what I kept thinking of, the little South
My
Park
future
song.
self and me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, personally, I would not stab my future self, but I guess one way you can sort of justify it is through this multiple timeline
Sure.
idea where she's like, this isn't my future. Like, I'm not going to end up killing myself.
Right.
This is just another
This is another
timeline
version of
me
me,
trying
yeah.
to mess up my life.
Right.
And that's not cool. So I guess that's how
Yeah.
she probably justified it to herself.
I feel like at this point she's just at like the height of her evil, so
Yeah.
she don't give a fuck. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like she don't care.
She's like, if I go soft in the future, I'm doing myself a favor.
Exactly.
Like, I want to murder soft me. Like, she
Soft
sucks.
me.
Though I will say, I even felt like 80s Ruby like had her moments of
Yeah.
she looked
Yeah.
very distraught
Yes.
a lot of the time when like the brawl was going down between Ball and Ash.
Yeah, you could absolutely see, our good Ruby, you could see the roots of where that
Yeah.
sort of comes from in 80s Ruby because she's like, you murdered my babies? And
Yeah.
and she has just this moment with Kelly, I can't believe that, we're bargaining chips right now. This is
Yeah.
real stupid.
Yeah.
I'm in love with this guy, but this is real stupid.
Yes.
Yeah, because she still had that rapport with Kelly, even as evil 80s Ruby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's I don't know, maybe there's hope that this version of Ruby could also come around.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, and this speaks volumes of Lucy Lawless's performance, that it's like you could tell that even though this woman was like a younger, more power-hungry version of Ruby, even than we saw in the previous season, because at that point she was kind of like mature and power-hungry, Like there's a difference between
Yeah.
being like young and like hungry
And you get the sense that Ruby last season, honestly felt like the balance she was planning on striking was actually probably best for
Yes,
everyone.
no, that was the thing, was you felt like that Ruby had she'd lived her life and she'd thought about this, and this Ruby's like, I've just made this decision and she hasn't really thought about it.
She's Gordon Gecko Ruby. She's
Yeah.
like
Oh,
80s
yeah.
Wall Street, greed is good sort of
Patrick
thing.
Bateman.
Yeah. Yeah, so that, but that you still see that this Ruby is the same person
Yes.
that Ash is now, in alliance with.
Yeah, and so like I said, I hope that this means seeing these very familiar elements from her means that eventually she'll be able to come around. But I don't know. I mean, 30 years is a long time, and for our Ruby, it took her 30 years to get to that point.
Right.
I don't know if this Ruby, if some stuff is gonna have to go down probably before she'll come around.
Well, and also, if you are the evilest version of your evil self and you see the soft you from the future, might you then go, oh no, never. I'm
That's
now going to be
not
gonna
twice
be-
as evil as I was before.
Yeah, I think
Not
that's a
me.
definite possibility for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to say the least. But yeah, let's so there were a lot of really great action sequences
Yes.
in this episode, particularly fisticuffs.
I
man.
love that ultimately he decided, I'm going to challenge Ball to a boxing match.
Yeah.
With my brand new hand.
I love, is it a brand spanking new hand or a new spanking hand? I love that.
Oh my
Ash
God,
was out of
Ash.
control in this episode with the one-liners. It was like
My
nonstop.
virgin hand hadn't even held a beer.
Yes,
I did, but that was another one of those moments where when they were going to the car and like Ash was starting to like feel his hand forming under the chainsaw, I was like, they changed the timeline. They changed the timeline. Like,
They changed the timeline. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, this is, again, where we get to paradoxy stuff, where it's like, this ultimately doesn't make sense.
Right.
We're going to go with it because this is a fun show, you know? Shoot first, think never. So we're going to roll with it. But, like, if you really stop to think about it, this does not make sense.
I like that John Doe brought up Marty McFly and Doc Brown, but I think we need the Legends of Tomorrow on this because they're the same amount of ridiculous time screwing ups.
Yeah.
People, you know.
Aberrations, they got to protect us all from Ash Point.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I really gotta say, because you brought up the fight that begins with the two of them punching at each other, but I want to talk about how this fight progresses through the third act of this episode.
Yeah.
Because we get so many iterations of this fight between the two of them. My personal favorite probably being the chainsaw duel, which feels right out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 when you had Dennis Hopper dueling Leatherface. Lacretia and I made eye contact, and it's like, Dennis Hopper. But that was amazing. And then, of course, getting Chet back, my wish was granted. We see
Yes.
Cheryl again. Okay, so this business with Brock.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about
Yeah.
this because Brock, before he met his untimely end, was about to deliver a very important piece of pivotal information that could change Ash's life, and then he got hit by the Hell Charger, and we'll never know. We'll never
Yeah.
know. And here we get teased with it again, and obviously this is just Ball messing with Ash, but it is a reminder that there is
I know,
secret
but, like-
hanging over Ash's life that could shake the very foundations
But
of
I
his
had
being.
another moment with Brock like I did with Henrietta in the last episode, and I was like, no, I am not going to be fooled again. But like when Ash was drowning him, I was like, Ash, just stop. I just want to know what he has to tell you. I really need to hear what he has to say about you and that he couldn't say when he got killed.
I mean, again, Ash isn't the sharpest crayon in the box, but yeah, he actually, I mean, he made the right move here.
He
Just
did,
like,
though.
I'm not gonna mess with any of this manipulation stuff. I'm just gonna continue.
Though
the
I
fighting.
have to admit, I'm still not 100% sure what Brock was because it obviously was not actually Brock.
Right.
But after he drowns and his body disappears, there's a chainsaw. So he was like he was helping Ash.
He
Really?
was Obi-Wan Kenobi, especially.
So yeah,
Yeah.
because that chainsaw appeared, then yeah, in some way, do we think this was Brock's spirit? Like, again, trying to convey this very important message that
Right.
Ash just refused to listen to.
Well, and whether or not it was truly Brock, it definitely feels like the show going, oh, guys, by the way, do you remember this thing that we didn't resolve? Here's this thing again, and we're not resolving it. So I'm wondering, I mean, maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but I'm wondering if this is something that they're leaving teased out to maybe resolve next year somehow.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I mean, rule of threes. And
Yeah.
this is the second time we've touched on it. I feel like the third time we'll actually get an answer.
Yeah.
And I want to know around the table, what do you, if this is something that the show is going to resolve and present to Ash, what do you guys think Brock was trying to tell him? Let's start with Lacretia.
I do feel, because we have this alternate timeline now, Brock will be alive, and just so we can see Lee Majors again, and he's going to tell Ash that he was adopted, and that, you know, he's really part of some really awesome line of El Jefes. Yeah.
Of
I like
ancient
that.
warriors.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that. Who wants to go next? Emma, let's...
I mean, I was thinking something along the lines, initially, before we saw her again, I was like, I thought it was going to have something to do with Cheryl. I still think it might have something to do with Cheryl, but it's not specifically that Cheryl's actually still alive, but it's something.
It's something, like maybe they're not actually brother and sister.
Yeah, again, adopted. It all just
Exactly.
goes
I
back
was
to
like,
Lacretia's
yeah.
adopted
Right.
theory.
Aliens.
Yep. That seems legit.
Yep. Yep.
I like that.
That is the hill I will die on. Yep.
We were joking about this before the show, but it turns out Ash is actually this world's version of Superman.
Yes.
Which is how he can withstand all of the pratfalls that he has endured over the years.
Well,
Yes.
there you go, aliens. So
Yes.
what Lex
Yeah.
said makes perfect sense.
Yes, Brock
Exactly.
found him in a rocket shaped like a can of Shemp's beer.
Perfect. I was
Yes.
going to say shaped like a chainsaw, but I like that.
Well, that was mine. Was definitely adopted or alien. I'm gonna go just to be different. I'll go with Time Wizard. Brock's actually a time wizard, and that like all of this shenanigans.
Well, so he can like force ghost himself
I
apparently.
know. I love Jedi ghosts.
And so can Chet and Cheryl, which I loved. But that's another thing where it's like I'm not going to think too much about this, and it's great.
I just literally go Star Wars and I'm happy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a different theory now. Because I said Time Wizard, which is how I described the new Blair Witch movie. If anybody saw that, spoiler alert: the Blair Witch is a time wizard. That is.
Now I want to see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
She is a time wizard. I think that the forest that they're actually in is actually the Blair Witch, and that's why now that they've been messing with timelines, they're going to disturb the Blair Witch, and her time wizard shenanigans are going to start to overlap with their time wizard shenanigans.
If there are infinite timelines, I want this show to cross over with every property that there is, whether or not it makes any tonal or logistical sense.
I mean, we went full Hellraiser earlier this
Yeah,
season.
that is true.
Which I was super jazzed about.
And two, I mean, Bones and Sleepy Hollow crossed over at one point. So is there a
Anything's
possibility
possible.
of anything? Yes.
There are Deadites in the Grey's Anatomy hospital,
Yep.
and
Oh my
only the hero of time can stop them.
And there's a timeline out there, guys, where Ash, Jason, and Freddy all threw down.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then John Constantine saves the day. I never forget, guys.
I like it.
Okay, so to get back to this fight, again, this great
Yes.
fisticuffs. Like while watching it, it's like,
Oh my
yeah.
god, it was great. And watching it too, I was like, if Vol didn't cheat and if Ruby didn't alter the deal, which obviously both of those things were always going to happen.
Of course they were.
But
Yeah.
why Ash even thought for a second it was going to be fine, I mean, he didn't. Ash never thinks.
Right.
But
yeah. go
if he
ahead.
hadn't, like, Ash would have freaking had this, man.
Yeah, I mean, Ash has got like at least 50 pounds on this guy.
Yes.
Some of which is muscle, I'm sure. And and the thing is that too, like watching these two fight, Sin Powers and Sin Chainsaw, like it was just hilarious because
Yeah, it
it's
was
just
fantastic.
two guys like attempting to wail on each other with all of the wonderful cinematography that comes with Evil
Yeah,
Dead.
I mean, that's like the beauty of Evil Dead is that Ash is a terrible fighter.
He really is. He's awful.
He gets by the skin of his teeth literally all the time. He has great instincts, but like if he were in like a legit boxing match, like he would get his ass kicked. No problem. Because he has no technique whatsoever.
The only reason he usually wins is because of that superhuman ability to just withstand
Right.
pain and pratfall.
Right, like
after
he's
pratfall.
a great bar brawler. But like
But they keep finding these really wonderful character moments inside of these fights. Like the one now I'm
Yeah.
thinking of too, in the Henrietta fight earlier in the episode, you've got this moment where they literally do the Three Stooges eye pokes to each other.
Oh yeah.
Which is great because then it's like you're drawing from the influences that Sam Raimi and his buddies were all drawing from when they were making the original movies and stuff like that is so much fun.
Yeah. Lucretia, you looked like you had some commentary.
Oh yeah, because too, Ash is fighting really only himself for the most part. So like, how do you learn fighting skills if you're only punching yourself in a Three Stooges fashion?
That's fair. That's very
Yeah.
fair. That's very fair. In regards to this fight on in the penultimate moments of this episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead, Charles J on Twitter
Yes.
said, "So the future, this was in the hashtag. So the world's future will be determined by two old white men duking it out. Seems about right."
Yeah.
And he tweeted out the gif, "I don't want to live on this planet anymore."
Professor Fong.
From Simpsons.
Charles, you are on point. Oh my goodness. Special shout out to him and Jingle James on Twitter who just tweeted out their feelings as they were watching. It was great.
It was fantastic.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. So yeah, and I think I love too just the idea that you're like destroying the inside of the cabin as this is happening, while you are also probably destroying like the fabric of the space-time continuum. Yeah, so
Not
that
important. No.
details.
We've already got one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it was really nice to see. We talked about it, like Kelly and Ruby kind of having this moment, but I really loved that Kelly's not having any of it. Like, you know, she gets this other temptation moment, and you know, all throughout the series as a whole, but mostly this season, they've been hammering in how strong Kelly is, and they're like, why are you following this idiot when you know, you and Ruby, even before she dies, is like, you need to forge your own path.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is too is that, you know, even the difference, I think, in terms of Kelly's sort of inclination to listen to and respect Ruby is that Ruby, who she's been dealing with, future Ruby, if you will, present Ruby, even though, yes, she's like, Kelly, you're strong, you can forge your own path, that Ruby still really has a tremendous amount of respect for Ash. And Kelly also really has a tremendous amount of respect for Ash, even if, yeah, she probably could survive on her own because she's a total badass. But like, so then to hear like this other woman who hates Ash telling her the exact same thing.
Who decapitated the one person who really truly believed in,
Yes.
in Kelly.
Yeah, like, to me, it was not surprising at all that she was like, absolutely not. And I thought it was a good writing choice and a strong character choice for Kelly.
Yeah, and John Doe and Christian Soleski in the chat say that they love Kelly's response to possibly being defiled, and that was implied. And it's like, what?
Just like, wait a minute, that was not part of the deal.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, for me, I would say Kelly is, and this is to the point you guys are making, is a full 50% of my favorite exchange, maybe all season. And it speaks to what we've been talking about how, they're doing so much more, so much better than they necessarily have to, but also they're doing a really brilliant job arcing all of these characters in ways that make sense. So for me, my favorite moment, maybe all season, was when Ash and Kelly think that they are beat, and they are both on the floor. And Ash actually apologizes. He says, I'm sorry, I failed you, I failed Pablo, I failed the world. And
He doesn't do that very often.
And then Kelly's response, and this got me. She says, we won a fuck ton more than we lost.
Yeah.
That's not a
fuck ton.
failure.
Yeah.
Like, that's fantastic, and it speaks to how far both of those characters have come.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was such this nice, beautiful, just character moment between the two of them, because again, there were so many opportunities for Kelly to just up and leave and be like, yeah, forget this, I'm over it. So to have like this moment of just like, no, what we have here is worth the world to me, is worth more than the world to me. Like, that says so much about their relationship, not only with each other, but like as the family that they created, you know, between her and Pablo, and even Ruby at the end there.
Yeah.
So it was this, I agree. It was a beautiful character moment. And of course, leave it to Ash to win by completely BSing.
Oh my God, that was amazing. It was so good.
It was such like a little kid thing to do of like, quit hitting yourself. Like, you just fell for your own trick. This is amazing.
Yeah. No, it was again, just so genius. And because I really did, again, like, even though in my heart of hearts I was like, it's gonna be okay, they're gonna win, the world is not gonna end, it's gonna be fine, still I was like delighted and surprised that Ash managed to pull it off, which is the charm of the character in general.
Yeah, it's like the Eli Tracker thing. And he's like, yeah, my plan, right?
Everything went according to plan.
Yeah, it's like, Ash, you didn't have a plan. Ash, you never have a plan. Like,
no. And again, it was just with so much on the line. Like, the world could have been destroyed because of this, like, again, this stupid contest of egos that they had going on here. And it was just so gratifying to see such a simple maneuver be the thing to take out this guy who's been such a charlatan and such a just awful person all season.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and
Yeah,
what a
he
way
got
to
what he
go.
deserved,
What a
yeah.
way to go. Ash literally used his own fingernail trick against him and split him in half. And it was beautiful.
We finally see him drop the Tommy Wiseau suit that
Yeah.
he's been wearing the entire time, and we see like this weird skinless ball monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, which is kind of, I mean, we saw one earlier this season. I didn't think that was him. I thought that was like a little skinless person that was like,
Right.
you know, doing his bidding. But yeah, it kind of looks
Apparently
like it
that
was
is
just him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, really cool and really nice way to tie everything back around.
I did have a moment though when the cabin was like burning and falling apart that I was like, you need to take Ruby out of there with you or you will not be able to get back to your own time.
And they were like, meh. We'll figure it out. And again, lucky them that Pablo was able to crawl out of the rubble because, yeah, I don't think they would have been able to get back home
No,
without
they
him.
would have been stuck in the 80s, but I think, yes, that is the explanation is that, like, since Pablo has been so tied to the Necronomicon, like, he just...
He's like, I know Sumerian now.
Yeah.
It's fine.
he just knew.
Yeah, I think that's the only way you can justify it. But because we didn't see it, for a good long while, we're watching this scene at the very end going, this
Are they
can't
still
be
in the
real.
80s? Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
This can't be real.
Well, and
we
I
didn't
was-
see them come back.
No, we didn't. And that's why that end scene is so suspicious. And I was so freaking worried. I was so worried that Linda was going to turn out to be a deadite.
Yeah.
Like all Lindas?
Like all
Like all
Lindas do.
Lindas inevitably turn into
Because
deadites.
There's still time.
I am really rooting for this Linda, you guys.
Yeah.
I really want
She
this Linda to
Show
make
her
it
that's
through.
awesome.
Yeah, she needs to be the Linda who lives.
Yes.
Renji9098, you are my people. Dude, because you just said Ash really gave Ball the finger. That's awesome.
But dumb tish. So I do have to ask, though, watching again because this, you know, so much of these last few episodes was focused on, you know, the films and you know, the cabin itself. Did you guys feel a little like twinge of sadness when you see the cabin burn and like completely collapse to the ground? Because while we're thinking about like questions about timelines and how this is ultimately going to mess things up for many reasons, I'm watching this cabin burn to the ground and go, oh, like it's such an iconic
See,
horror
I think
image.
for me at that point, like my brain was already like deep in multiple timeline theory, so I was like, well, that's just one timeline.
Yeah, like
Yeah, so true.
my assumption is there's no way we are rid of this location forever.
No.
If anything, I'm going like, oh yeah, no, that's a bad
I will
place.
say,
That should burn down.
I will say, I hope that on the show we are done with it for a while.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I think that I thought it was great that they went back
Yeah.
to the cabin for the last 2 episodes of this, but they also went back in time and went back to the cabin.
Right.
we can't keep going back
Correct,
to it.
correct. Now, if we want to go back to the Middle Ages, I'm on board.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially, and that's, I think, probably the biggest treat from this season for
Yes.
me is the confirmation that they got the rights, at least in
Yeah, at
some,
least some-
tiny
yes.
capacity, to Army of Darkness so that we can acknowledge I went back in time.
Yes.
We'll even show a little clip from the movie for a hot second. You know, we
Yeah.
can talk about this, and if we wanted to, we could probably go back there.
And I think that's where it goes, because the thing is with the cabin being destroyed and all these alternate timelines, I feel that the only way to go from here is to go back to the Middle Ages and be like, hey, what's up, Sheila? So that Ash can confirm that that really happened.
Now, you know what would also be cool is going back in time to the Middle Ages and seeing like Renaissance age Ruby.
Yeah.
When she's probably like full on like
Xena
evil
warrior
castle
princess.
and like
yes.
Like the Red Queen almost.
yes, oh, it would be the best.
Yep. That would be fantastic.
So, guys, I feel like this is a good time to kind of segue into what we think season 3 is going to be. But before we do that, guys, do you have any final thoughts on season 2?
I love this show so much.
Yeah.
For me, I think obviously we know we don't get full closure here. We see Ruby is there.
Right.
We know that this is not going to last. But this is as close as we've gotten to a full stop resolution from Evil Dead, period.
Yeah.
Basically. And I like that.
Basically ever, yeah.
It feels like we really tied up the story that we've been telling for 2 seasons, and this closes the book, if you will, on this first chapter of this new iteration of Evil Dead.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see where they go from here, but I think they absolutely stuck this landing.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this was a great ending to seasons 1 and 2, which were very much one story as far as I'm concerned. And now, moving on, we can tell a whole new story that'll, involve past Ruby, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah, and when you bring up where do we go from here, I just think it's gonna be a musical. And
Yes!
where do we go
from here? That's from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical.
Oh, that's magical. For me, season 1 and 2, I never dreamed we were ever going to get anything like this as far as Evil Dead was concerned, because the sequel to Army of Darkness had been stuck in development hell for so long, and with the series getting rebooted, even with Sam Raimi talking about doing crossovers and sequels, I was like, it's never going to happen, guys. So getting Ash vs. Evil Dead as like a consistent thing made me incredibly happy, where I got to watch this week to week. And yeah, it was always like watching this, even though I'm sitting here going, this doesn't make sense, or this could be a dream. There's so many time paradoxes going on here. Seeing Ash get his Hail to the King moment, where the town that ostracized him finally acknowledged the hero that he was really gratifying. He got the girl.
It was. No, I totally agree.
He got his family, this makeshift family back, and he got a spiritual goodbye from his father, his sister, and Chet, which, again, like, seeing Cheryl again, and something about, again, just the wonderful acting this season, like, even when he knows that what he's seeing isn't real, is a hallucination, seeing his dead family members still really emotionally affected him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it was only missing dancing Ewoks.
Yep, that's all they're missing. So yeah, let's go ahead and roll into some quick predictions. There they go.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
So this is based on what Jinglin James at Son of Blaine in the hashtag pointed out that I think would be a really interesting way for them to go next season, which is the idea that Ash is actually straddling multiple timelines. Ooh. So we see him sort of pop in and out of different timelines and see how, like, the timeline went where he and his friends never went to the cabin, or they went to the cabin and there was nothing there. You know what I mean? So that's I think that'd be a fun thing to play with next season.
Yeah, because that would leave a lot of storyline open, but I do think that we will go back to the Middle Ages and see Sheila.
I sure hope
why
so.
Not? Yeah.
Yep.
I would love to go back to the Middle Ages, but I think what has me the most excited as a continuity nerd, like somebody who really likes reading comic books, for example, I love the idea that now we might be able to fully fold in the reboot and possibly start introducing elements of that.
Yeah,
as
that'd be
well.
great.
I'm not saying we gotta do it like immediately once we get into season 3, but I think now that the possibility exists, like, sky's the limit, everything counts, and we can roll with all of it. That's very exciting. But also, whatever else happens, a lot of people are gonna die. It's
My
gonna be horrible.
fangirl nerdy thing, I want both. I want our Middle Ages, like, trip, road trip, if you will, and then I want us to come back and then get that timeline and have we, like, get Mia, because Mia is the thing I've wanted from the start of this season. Like, that's what I want. But another thing that, like, we have to contend with is Pablo is the embodiment of the Necronomicon, and, like, he's gonna have, like, magic at his disposal. And even though they'll be battling, like, evil 80s Ruby, like, he has the Necronomicon to fight her. That's so great.
Pablo's going to realize his full magical girl potential, and I'm on board.
He's a powerful vagina.
Yes, he is, and I hope next season we get a full-on transformation sequence.
Perfect.
I have an awesome comment here in the chat. I feel the need to repeat. ABK88 says, this panel's enthusiasm is infectious. Aww. They have the best smiles and laughs. Thank you for breaking down the episodes week after week.
Oh, thank you.
We love you.
Thank you for watching it. Yeah, I think that's probably how we should wrap up.
Yeah.
Is just saying thank you guys for week after week tuning in to hear what we have to say in our nerdy fangirling and boying, outings.
I'll
every
fangirl.
Yeah.
I'll fangirl all day.
Yeah, we're just a table of fangirls, guys. It's been so much fun. So thank you guys so much for watching. Sadly, I think it's time to wrap
I
up
know.
for the evening, although I feel like I could talk about this
I know.
for the rest of the night.
Same.
So thank you guys so much for watching. Emma Fyffe, where can people go if they want to find you?
You can find me all over the internet, mostly on Twitter and Instagram at my name, Emma Fyffe, EMMAFYFFE. Be sure to tune into the Star Wars Rebels Season 3 mid-season finale on Tuesday at 6 o'clock p.m. right here on AfterBuzz TV. Also, starting on December 19th, Alexis Torres, Mark Donica, Stacey Shuttles, and I will be reviewing a fabulous anime series called Yuri on Ice. If any of you guys are watching the show, it's fantastic. We're really, really excited to do the after show, so you should totally check that out. And keep your eyes peeled next week. Sometime, my Hot Pepper Gaming review of the mobile app game Sailor Moon Drops will be being posted on the internet, and that'll be entertaining for everybody.
Well, since I'm Lacretia Lyon, guys, you can always find me at LACRETIALYON anywhere on the internet, since there is only one. And until January, you can pretty much catch me at the Comic Book Exchange After Show with Lex on Book Circle Online every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Yeah.
Yes, I am Lex Michael, all over social media at the Lex Michael, and that.
Yeah.
Exactly what Lacretia said. She's very smart. Listen to her.
I'm Megan Salinas. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at The Menguin. That's TheMenguin. I am also on a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz, and I write articles for The Movie Chick. That's Chick with 2 Ks. Be sure to check those out. Again, if you haven't already done so, go to iTunes, rate, subscribe, leave a comment, because it is the best way to ensure that we are here for Season 3. Woo! Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you all next season.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Hail to the king, baby.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.